my fellow challenge lovers. Welcome to The Challenge Historian, where we dive deep into all things MTV's The Challenge, past, present, or future, if it's happening in the Challenge universe. And we are here to document. Strong emphasis on the universe these days. Getting to that in a moment. I am your host and dedicated challenge historian, Jacob Hollabaugh. Thank you so very, very much for being here with us today. Back in the podcast studio, the winter break here at the Challenge Historian podcast has come to an end. We've resurfaced from our hibernation and have done so right as the challenge world has been rocked by some groundbreaking news over the last few weeks that we just had to get back on the mic to give our opinions about it. Honestly, it might have been a few more weeks, but now we got to get rolling because there's all this big news. We got to talk about it. That news that I speak of is, of course, that the Challenge franchise is expanding yet again, and that expansion will be the main topic of today's podcast. We will get to it in a few minutes, but before we get to that, we've got one other topic to discuss, which is programming notes as normal, but programming notes times 10, because we've got to talk about a new project, a new undertaking, if you will, here at the Challenge Historian, and that is the official 2022 Challenge Series Rewatch. What is that? You may ask, what is the official 2022 Challenge Series Rewatch? Well, it's kind of right there in the title, pretty obvious, but over the next few months, I will be rewatching every single season of the greatest reality competition show ever to grace our television screens. Every season of the challenge to date, and hopefully, I'm hoping at least a few of you out there might tag along with me for some or even all of them. We're going to start with Season 1, Road Rules All-Stars, all the way up to Season 37, Spies, Lies, and Allies. I'll be going back through every single season, one at a time, reliving all the memorable moments the show has provided along its journey, updating the player stat sheets, resumes, documenting iconic moments, eliminations, daily challenges, fights, hookups, pranks, and all of the accoutrement of the challenge world. Lists, all kinds of fun stuff going to be coming out of this rewatch. And of course, with each season of rewatching that I do, there will be an accompanying podcast recapping that season. Now, there is a few big reasons for this big project, this big undertaking. The first and foremost, the challenge is awesome. Let's be honest. That's why you're listening to this podcast. That's why I'm doing this podcast, because we love this amazing, amazing show that we will say again is by far and away the best of its kind ever in the landscape. And rewatching all of the seasons will be a boatload of fun. So that's the first reason for sure. Second, though, it's only been really the last few seasons of the flagship show that the Challenge media sphere has really blown up with a bunch of other great podcasts out there like my own that cover the show and people writing about it, talking about it, way, way, way more social media chatter, Reddit chatter, the whole thing. So most of the seasons of the history of this show, 90+% of them never really got that kind of attention, that kind of thorough examination and breakdown, and they all certainly deserve it. So that's what we're going to do. And third and final reason has to do with the name of this podcast, The Challenge Historian. That is what I liked to think of myself as when I started this podcast. That's what I thought I was, a true superfan who knew everything about the show so many of us love, and that I would be very well equipped to talk about it and the history of it. But over the last year or so of doing this show and the 3 seasons or so we've covered, I've come to realize that my knowledge maybe isn't quite on the level I would like it to be and that many of you out there possess. Now, sure, I've seen all the seasons multiple times over, some of them a dozen times over, the really favorites of mine, the iconic ones. I can answer almost any basic challenge trivia, but the more involved in this world of the challenge I got and the fandom that I got, the more I realized that there are some actual true challenge historians out there deserving very much of that kind of title, and I just didn't feel like I was quite yet one of them. So what better way to earn my stripes, as a great challenger would say, than to do what a historian does and go back and start documenting from the start. Go back, do all the homework once again. I had done it before, but let's do it again. Let's refresh. Let's remember. Mostly, a lot of this is also, my memory is horrible. So while I've seen them a dozen times, I might not remember every little thing that I want to remember when it comes up that, what's the greatest betrayal of all time? Well, I've got 3 top of mind, but what if I'm missing one of the ones that was better than all of them? That's what we're here to do. So that's why I'll be doing all of this. And as the rewatch commences, haven't podcasted in a while. You got to forgive me not knowing all of my words quite yet. But as the rewatch commences, I'll be posting a ton of stuff across a bunch of different channels, not just this podcast feed. There will be plenty of content coming to the Challenge Historian Instagram page at Challenge Historian, so you can follow along there. There will be tweet thread reviews of every single episode. So if season by season recaps isn't enough for you, you want episodic recaps, those will be in short tweet threads over on my personal Twitter account, which is just my name, at Jacob Hollaball. Look at the show notes or whatever to figure out how to spell my last name, because you probably won't be able to get it. Videos will, of course, come to the Challenge Historian YouTube channel. This podcast will be up there if you would like to just watch the podcast first listen, as well as maybe some enhanced videos along the way as well. And then a bunch of posts on Reddit, which I've finally gotten around to diving into the challenge subreddit and been having a blast doing so. So that is going to continue. And then, of course, the previously mentioned season recap podcast will be on this very feed you are listening to right now. Those season recaps will sometimes still be just me, but I am very hopeful that for the good amount of the seasons, I may be able to find some other amazing challenge podcasters, super fans, media types, or even, dare I say, cast members themselves willing to jump on the mic and break down an iconic season with me. So expect some guests for the very first time in the history of the Challenge Historian. It won't just be me every single time walking you back down memory lane through all of these amazing seasons. And expect these shows to come pretty fast. I'm going to start the rewatch literally right now, today, and plan to have season 1 recap podcast up this Wednesday, 2 days from now, season 2 on this Friday, and then seasons 3, 4, and 5 all next week. So in the first 2 weeks, 5 seasons coming out. After that, we will do guaranteed 1 a week every single Wednesday. There's a possibility that we'll continue doing 2 or even 3 seasons in a week, pending what seasons we're on, how long they are, how in-depth they are, and what possible podcast guests I've got lined up and when schedules work out. But the first few seasons, they're really short. I mean, literally season 1 and 2, they're 26 episodes of 20 minutes. They go really quick, so we'll be able to pound through those very, very quickly. And then we'll get into a rhythm of, 1, 2, or 3 a week as the seasons see fit from there on out. So 5 seasons over the next 2 weeks, and then minimum 1 a week after that, all the way through until we are done. All right. Glad I have that announced. I do hope the biggest goal of all of this, while it's going to be great for me, I'm going to, rededicate myself to this franchise that we love so much. I'm going to have a blast doing it. I do hope that a lot of you will follow along on this rewatch journey and relive some of these iconic seasons with me. I hope you listen to all the recaps, even if you don't have time or don't necessarily want to watch a particular season. Definitely check in on those recaps. But I'm going to keep the schedule known, posted week to week on Challenge Historian IG, so you can see where we are at. You'll see the seasons pop up in your timeline or your podcast feed. You'll know what seasons are coming next, and if you want to watch them, you will be able to follow right along with us. And related to this, it'll be better if I just cover this here and now, because I know I am going to get a bunch of DMs and messages about it later if I don't, as I've already got a bunch of them after announcing it on announcing the rewatch on my Instagram and on Reddit. And that is that I bet a lot of you immediately when you hear that I am going to rewatch every single season, your initial question is likely to be, how? Where are you watching seasons 1 through 9? They're not available. Where are you watching them? Can I watch them too? And unfortunately, I don't have a great answer for you. It's not the answer that you're what you want to hear, but it is the only one I can give, which is I have access to them, seasons 1 through 9 for the time being at least, but I am not able to share them publicly, nor do I know anywhere that they are publicly shared at this time. There were a couple different things floating around Reddit in the months past where sometimes there were some links to different seasons or episodes or things. So you can always, do your own internet sleuth and see if you can find them anywhere out there. But to my knowledge, they're not publicly available anywhere, and nor am I in any way able to make them publicly available. However, I will say I am as desperate as the next Challenge superfan to have Paramount Plus add all of these seasons to their system or their platform, whatever, Paramount Plus, whatever you want to call it, platform, and give us the complete series. Right now, 10 through 35 is on there. I want 1 through 37 plus Champs vs. Stars plus All Stars, all of it on there. So if anyone out there wants to start like a change.org petition or however that works, some sort of petition online, whatever, that a bunch of us challenge maniacs can sign, let Paramount hear our voices. I would be happy to share such a thing on my social channels, on this podcast, on Reddit, everywhere. So if you want to put something like that together, you send it my way. I will make sure I get it out to the best of my ability. And I'm sure a ton of people out there would love to share and sign as well if anyone wants to start getting that ball rolling. But otherwise, once we get to season 10, you will, no matter what, be able to watch along with me as long as you've got that Paramount Plus subscription. So if you canceled it once All Stars 2 was over, go ahead, hit that resubscribe so you can start working your way back through your own personal rewatch as we go along. Fantastic. All right, that is all covered. So once again, quickly, schedule-wise, expect seasons 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 to be coming out this Wednesday, Friday, and then next Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, respectively. So season 1, Road Rules All-Stars this Wednesday, Real World Road Rules Challenge, kind of actually season 1, but we call it season 2 now, this Friday, 3, 4, and 5, coming next week. After that, we will keep rolling then through every season, multiple seasons, as we talked about, a week, probably all the way until May, when All Stars 3 debuts, at which point we will then add in our regular episode recaps as that season progresses and keep doing the season recaps, keep doing the rewatch until we are done with it. And with that, that takes us, mentioning All Stars 3, that takes us right on into our main topic of this podcast. We've got the 10X programming notes out of the way. Now we're going to get to the meat of this and talk about that big old news dump that got dropped on us last week. Franchise-altering news coming out of CBS, Paramount, Viacom, whoever you want to call the parent company. So let's go ahead and dive on into that news. Moving into the groundbreaking news that we got, I guess it's been about a week ago. I forget what day exactly it was last week, but big story dropped same day as a trailer of sorts, kind of a trailer, dropped from Paramount themselves, announcing two things. There was the kind of very smaller announcement that otherwise would have been a big announcement, and that was finally that All Stars 3 would be premiering not quite as soon as we would have liked, not till May 11th, but we knew when we watched All Stars 2, the very end after the finale, there was a little teaser clip for the first time ever. There was a teaser on the challenge. Actually, that's not true. First time ever that would have happened would have been, there's a couple of reunions where they literally had the next episode of Champs vs. Stars airing right after, or teased Champs vs. Stars right after. So not the very first teaser ever, but kind of the first same show, All Stars 2 to 3 teaser right after. Whatever. We knew it was coming. We knew, or those of us that dip our toes mildly in the spoiler waters, knew that it had basically been filmed at that time. It's been filmed for a couple months now at this point. And so we expected it to be coming very soon, and not quite as soon as expected. May 11th, we got that premiere date, but the reason likely that it's not until then is because there's a whole bunch of other stuff that got announced that they're going to have to figure out a time to shoot and get on the schedule. So I think they were just willing to go with, we're already on a break. We're just going to keep that break going so that when all this new stuff comes out, once All Stars 3 comes, we're probably going to have the challenge in our lives. Hopefully, fingers crossed, some version, one of the versions of the challenge in our lives basically every week for, if I had my way, eternity. We don't need weeks off, just one into the other. And by into the other, I mean the huge news that came out was a brand new version of the challenge, a new spinoff, and arguably a bigger spinoff than we've ever had before. We've had the flagship show. There's 37 seasons of it. The first ever spinoffs of it were, the Spring Break Challenge doesn't really count. So really the first spinoffs were Champs vs. Pros, Champs vs. Stars, Champs vs. Stars. We had 3 of those, as you know, if you've listened to this podcast for a long time. I don't really even recognize that those happened. I don't count those statistics or anything like that. They were, in the true nature of them, very much a spinoff of the show. And then our newest one, we've had All Stars, and it's been a raging success. And it is, well, it's a spinoff, but it's not really a spinoff in that it's not really a dumbed down version of the show at all. It is it's its own thing. It's separate, but it is just a different version of the challenge. Instead of a spinoff, it's more of just an alternative version of the challenge. And that is now what we are getting again with the challenge War of the Worlds, not to be confused with the challenge War of the World or War of the World 2, season 34, 33, and 4 of the flagship series. This is not War of the Worlds 3, new thing, and that is 4 separate challenge shows. The Challenge CBS, or at least that's what we're working title for the time being. Maybe they'll announce some other name related to it, but the Challenge CBS here in America. At the same time, there will be the Challenge UK, the Challenge Australia, and the Challenge Argentina. 4 shows, 4 different countries or regions. And then the winners of all those 4 shows will then be facing off in the second part of the tournament. That part is the War of the Worlds part. So the Challenge War of the Worlds, basically 5 shows in one. An American, UK, Australia, Argentina show with all the winners going into one winner's bracket of sorts called War of the Worlds. That was what it was announced. And why I mentioned earlier when I said kind of a trailer, they did a trailer that was basically the challenge. It was all footage of the last couple seasons of the challenge, overlaid with a bunch of words explaining, the sport everyone loves, the show that broke ground, this, that, and the other is coming to a new home. And that was about it. And then there was a press release in a couple different magazines. I apologize to whichever one of the magazines was the main one to break most of the news. But that's what we found out. All-Stars 3 premiere on May 11th. And then the huge news, brand new version of the challenge over on CBS, on Paramount Plus exclusively, and going to be called working titles, the Challenge CBS, Challenge UK, Challenge Australia, Challenge Argentina, and then the War of the Worlds, a winner's bracket of those 4 shows. So that was the announcement. Let's break down quickly what we know about the 3, where each of the 3 versions or strands of the challenge world are right now. We got All-Stars, we got Flagship, we got Challenge CBS. That's how we're going to refer them. Or no, Flagship MTV, shout out MTV. We're going to get a lot more to them soon here, but we got All-Stars, we got Challenge CBS, we got Flagship MTV. So let's quickly do kind of what we know about each of the 3 shows at this point, and then talk some opinions about all the new stuff and where all 3 pillars of the show or versions of the show or whatever you want to say are at right now. So as far as what we know, let's go with All-Stars first because it's the easy one. We know, as we just said, All-Stars 3 is coming in May. We also know that it has been done shooting for quite a while. If you want to know the cast, that information is out there. Unfortunately, if you want to know who won, literally elimination by elimination, daily by daily, final, everything, you could also find out that information if you really, really wanted to. Most people, challenge fans on social media, know the account or 2 accounts that have that info if you would like to go scroll back and find that out. They've known for literally a couple months since they finished shooting. I do know who the cast is. I do not know any of the results. Thankfully, that is the way I would prefer it, and we'll keep it. And of course, when All-Stars 3 comes out, we will be doing, covering that show on this podcast, as we'll cover all of these shows on this podcast. So when the actual cast is officially put out there, we'll be talking about it here. But we know that's coming in May 11th. And other than that, we haven't had any announcements or any, spoilers related to casting for a season 4, but there are zero signs of it stopping. This simply seems like they banged out All-Stars 1, 2, and 3 very fast from inception of the idea to the show to now we're about to have a 3rd season on our television screens. It's been amazing. All thanks to the Godfather, Mark Long, as always. Always have to mention that anytime we're talking All-Stars. But this seems very much like they got those in, and now they're going to, we're going to talk in a minute about how they're going to film all of these at the same time and how not poor TJ, very well off, very best job in the world, TJ Lavin, but poor guy's going to be very, very busy how he's going to possibly film all of these different ones. So while there's no announcement of a season 4, no casting going on, no rumors in the background, there's zero signs of All-Stars just, being a 3 and out type of thing. I think All-Stars is going to continue for many, many seasons to come. Then we've got the Challenge CBS, this new thing. We know, and again, next few parts we are going to get slightly into some kind of, I guess, spoilery, rumory stuff, but no cast names, no anything like that, other than just what's happening kind of behind the scenes. The only thing we're going to talk about, which I think most fans are comfortable with or safe with, but if you're not, maybe fast forward, hit that plus 15 seconds, 2, 3, 4 times. But we know the Challenge CBS it's been announced, and so it should be obvious, even without having to have it confirmed by different spoiler sites and accounts, that they are actively casting it right now. We expect that the shooting of that is going to happen pretty soon, with a pretty obvious goal of it being televised in the summer, probably popping up in the middle of All-Stars 3 or right after All-Stars 3, but I'm guessing this is not known as an actual guaranteed scheduling or shooting date. Isn't exactly known, although TJ himself, who will come up a lot through this, did reveal maybe he was supposed to, maybe he wasn't on. He's done multiple podcast interviews. He was on Challenge Mania with Scott and Derek. He was also on Death Taxes Bananas with Johnny Bananas, and I forget which one he said it on, but that he would be leaving right after he goes into the BMX Hall of Fame. Shout out him. If you haven't shown him love for that accomplishment, go over to one of his social pages, let him know how amazing he truly is. And if you were never really totally knew TJ's career before the challenge, yes, Hall of Famer. That's how he one of the best ever to do it in the BMX world. We're lucky that we somehow got him in the challenge world and have kept him in the challenge world all this time. But he revealed when he would be leaving to shoot before and after that Hall of Fame induction, or having come back for the Hall of Fame induction. So they're shooting it soon. And my assumption would be they want All-Stars 3. They want there to be no break. If not, they would like an overlap of, we got the community back on Paramount Plus watching the Challenge All-Stars. Now let's drop this brand new thing on them and get them watching and hooked quickly. So my best guess would be that probably halfway through All-Stars 3, maybe sometime in June, is when we might expect to see the Challenge CBS pop up to be able to watch. We also know about the Challenge CBS reality stars from CBS only. I think they used the word like reality titans from the CBS universe. So that was pretty clear that no MTV people are current challengers, was insinuated by that. Now, it was speculated, I thought very smartly, by multiple different people in the podcast world. But Scott on Challenge Mania, Scott Yeager, did have the idea of maybe they would bring in a couple ringer types of current or former cast members, maybe a Johnny Bananas or a CT, or some heavy hitters onto the new CBS one as kind of a surprise thing when it actually comes out. So we'll see if that happens. I'm not holding my breath over it. They seem pretty blunt and straightforward reality titans from the CBS world. So we're thinking this is only people that have been on Big Brother, Survivor, Amazing Race, Love Island, which was on CBS, just moved networks, I believe, in the last couple of weeks. They announced that. So all throughout the CBS world, not MTV folks, not current challengers from the flagship show. It is unclear if or when. The next thing here that we know about this new show is there's 4 of them that'll culminate in then one winner's bracket of all 4. But we don't know the UK, Argentina, Australia, if or when those 3 shows will be available to us in a US market. My guess is, UK and Australia, they're filming in English. I would assume Argentina filming in Spanish. As many others have guessed before me, I would assume that all of them, if not at least the UK and the Australia one, since they're in English, would be put on the Paramount Plus platform. I wouldn't see any reason why they wouldn't just put all of them on the Paramount Plus platform, language regardless. Maybe it'll just be on a delay. But if the goal is, we're going to watch the Challenge CBS, the American one, and then we're going to watch the War of the Worlds, the winner's bracket, I'd kind of like to have watched the UK competition and the Argentina competition, Australia competition. I'm fine with subtitles on the Argentina one. I don't care if I can't understand it. Please don't. I'd rather it's subtitles than dubbing over. I don't want to if somehow TJ is hosting all of these, which I don't think he is. But anyways, we're enough of that. So we don't know if we'll get to see all of them, if we will just be seeing the US one or not. But we can be confident we are seeing the US one plus the winner's bracket, the War of the Worlds showdown And I would, again, probably just me guessing, but I would assume that on some sort of delay, we would be able to watch the other markets one as well at some point. And then the final thing we know about this new one is we do know TJ is hosting the American one at least. This was a very funny mix up on, again, so TJ was on the Challenge Mania podcast, like literally the day of, within minutes or the hour of all of this news coming out. And obviously he's keyed into it because he's a part of it, but he's not, he doesn't know when any information is going to be public. And in his interview with them, he mentions like when he's heading off to Argentina to film. And then there was a hilarious debate between Scott and Derek later on on their next episode, potentially talking about this very same subject. And where Derek was convinced, no, that means he's hosting the Argentina one. We do know that the American version of it, this Challenge CBS American quadrant, if you will, of the War of the Worlds, is also filming in Argentina. I don't know if that means all 4 of them are filming there, or just Argentina, or just the American one is, but we know TJ is hosting the American one, which is filming in Argentina, and likely then we can assume he is hosting the War of the Worlds portion as well. We don't know that for sure. He didn't say that for sure, but pretty confident in that. So that's what we know about the Challenge CBS. And again, opinions coming here in a minute. But finally, what do we know about the flagship? The flagship show, this is the one part, no spoilers beyond what kind of currently is happening from a production standpoint. No, people or, nothing's happened yet, so there can't be any like winners, spoilers, or anything like that. But it has come out that casting for season 38 is happening, which is very good because, as we're going to get to here in the opinions portion of this, the flagship show ain't dead yet. They are casting for season 38. There's starting to be some rumors and some slight verifications out there of people that are or are not getting calls. It at least seems like, for the most part, it seems, again, this is getting a little more into rumor, not fully baked out or fully finalized spoilers, that if you've been on the flagship show, even if you came from maybe a Big Brother or a Survivor or a CBS show originally, seems like those folks are their flagship now, and they maybe aren't, at least in this initial run, going to be in the running for the CBS one, even if they came from a Big Brother. So, your Fessies, Josh's, Casey's, your Natalie's, Michelle's, all the different Survivor people, Jay's, Michaela, all the Survivor folks that have come in the last few seasons. It seems like they're their flagship for now, and everyone that hasn't been on the challenge before from the CBS world is in Challenge CBS world. But we know casting for season 38 is happening, and it seems like the next thing to shoot is for sure this CBS version. So my guess, which has been the common guess out there so far, is then that season 38 is obviously going to happen to some way, somehow, but it'll probably be more of a fall or winter when this War of the Worlds Challenge CBS is over. So we're going to get a run of all 3 branches of the show: All Stars, Challenge CBS, Challenge MTV, hopefully back to back to back. But none of them are dead for the time being, just new ones coming. So that's what we know. Now let's move into the opinions. Let's talk about how we're feeling about all this, because there's been a lot of feelings. Personally, I've felt every different emotion possible about this news. I've seen probably out there between Reddit and social media and listening to some of the other podcasts that have started to cover this news. I've seen about every emotion be had by many, many different fans and other podcasters and media folks alike about this news. So let's share some of mine. Because, that roller coaster definitely happened. I would say my initial impression, the moment I saw this pop up, I was pretty taken aback. I didn't know what the hell I was watching because, again, as we said earlier, the trailer was confusing as hell because it was a trailer for this brand new thing, but it was all like Nelson was heavily, heavily featured in it. And it was just clips of stuff that had already happened. So I was like, I don't know what the hell I'm watching here. Is this filmed? What's going on? What's happening? And so it was all very confusing. That was the main thing. And then my first thought, I couldn't help it but have any other thought, was, is the show over? Is the flagship MTV show over? which was a horrible, horrible feeling to have. We'll get to that more in a second. The first thing to discuss here is because of that feeling, if the flagship show continues, then this is all fine. That is kind of ground zero, the number one thing that matters most in all of this is if the flagship show continues, then this is all fine, then this is all good, this is all great. If this new show and all this new news means the eventual or possibly very soon death of the flagship show, then this is not all fine. Not at all in any way, at least in my book. Because yes, this new show, I will talk about it in a moment. I want to love it. I know I'm going to probably love it. It's more challenge. More challenge is good. New versions of the challenge are fine, as long as they don't mean the death of the old versions that we still freaking love. Now, the thing with this, though, is that fans forget sometimes the challenge fandom, certainly in the last 3 seasons of the flagship show in particular, kind of forget how good we have it sometimes. Because, we don't like a few new cast members, or they mess with this or that. They change this or that. They double way too far down on a spy's, theme and genre. But I've already started to see throughout both those seasons, we weren't podcasting when Total Madness or Double Agents were out, so we're not necessarily on the record the way we are with Spies, Lies, and Allies, but we were very much on the record during Spies, Lies, and Allies that my opinion of the show was a decent bit higher than what seemed to be the consensus of everyone out there, and that is All Stars was running. Everyone just became, the challenge community, and mostly consensus was, ooh, give me All Stars, give me All Stars, give me All Stars. That's amazing. And the flagship show is kind of, going down the toilet. Many even big-time cast members themselves, I'm looking at you, Bananas, have openly talked about how bad they think the current new cast is and the new show and everything. But I have already seen online very, very quickly in the last few weeks, especially out in Reddit, which I will again want to say to everyone on the challenge subreddit, y'all rule. That place is so much fun, and I can't believe I wasn't on it earlier or more active on it earlier, because now I'm on it way too much. I need to put some time limits on how much I am on there and reading and commenting. But I've already seen there and out in Twitter, Instagram, social media world, the quote, actually Double Agents was kind of good on rewatch. Those takes, they're already starting. And we went through this we had Dirty 30, Vendetta's Final Reckoning. In the moment, Vendetta's and Final Reckoning, if you don't remember, I do, they weren't received great in the moment. And then very quickly afterwards, everyone realized those seasons fucking rock. Like, I just rewatched Vendetta's actually last week, very randomly before doing a rewatch. I just rewatched a random season, and it was Vendetta's, and Vendetta's freaking kicks ass. It is a very, very good season. Final Reckoning has some major flaws, but also has some major high points and is awesome. And we kind of did a retroactive. Yeah, those were actually really great. And then now, yes, Total Madness, Double Agents, Spies, Lies, and Allies, they've had big problems. They have the quality has dipped for sure, but that doesn't mean that they still haven't been like on their own individually really kind of awesome and fun and great. And I know 2 years from now, there's going to be plenty of, Double Agents and Spies, Lies, and Allies kind of actually had some awesome moments and were kind of actually pretty cool. And it wasn't as bad as we acted like it was in the moment because we were comparing it to All Stars and all this other stuff. So we don't always remember how good we have it, but now there's this new thing threatening to remove the old thing entirely, and now we're maybe realizing that we have it really good with the old thing, and we'd like that to stay good and have a new thing that's also good and just have all the things that are good. So this new global spinoff, the next kind of opinion here to discuss is the new global spinoff was the purpose of having all of those global contestants starting back on the War of the Worlds season when they really went UK heavy, War of the Worlds 1 and 2, and then, eventually all culminating really, then they kept it more American for a season or two, but it was a lot more of different shows from everywhere else. And then this last season, Spies, Lies, and Allies, obviously bringing in the 19 rookies, 17 global competitors from all over the world, all kinds of different countries, Nigeria, Romania, Spain. We've had Australia before. We had some more UKs that we've had before. We were all over the map with that one. And that was all testing. That was all building for this particular move. That was all, the powers that be at CBS or Paramount or Viacom, whatever. I'm just going to, from now on, because Paramount Plus is the streaming service, even if Viacom is the parent name or whatever, you don't need to worry about that. I'm going to call it Paramount. From now on, the powers that be are going to be referred to as Paramount. Those at Paramount, the powers that be, they knew, they had seen Big Brother and Survivor, both most notably, among others, but they had seen those two shows spawn off in countries all over the world. That is why, on last season of The Challenge, Spies, Lies, and Allies, we had so many people like an Emmy and an Emmanuel from Survivor Romania. We had Logan from Survivor Spain. And all across the world, they're doing this. We had Tasha and Esther from Big Brother Nigeria. All right, so they've done this before, and it clearly makes them a boatload of money and is great and expands them into all these new markets. And they looked at the challenge and, their MTV as an MTV property that had made some expansion by doing the UK stuff as kind of step one and bringing in other MTV shows from over MTV UK. And that led to, why don't we do with the challenge what we've done with Survivor and Big Brother? Why don't we open this up to all kinds of markets all across the world? They tested it basically with Spies, Lies, and Allies, and now they're going full bore with it in 3 new markets, plus keeping ours. So that was all testing. That was all building to this moment. This is all about money. This is all about market share. This is all about getting more people on their streaming platform, getting more people in other countries. And yeah, that's fine, because as much as that kind of seems slimy and dumb to say or whatever out loud, that's how all the television shows work. And this has always been a television show, and that's all it ever is going to be. And so that's the natural evolution of this thing. Few other things to talk about, though, on this new CBS show. The first thing is, for those of you out there who don't like the sportification of the challenge, you're probably not going to like this new version as much as someone like myself, because sport was emphasized heavily in the trailer that we got for it. That is what they want this to be. I think that is very, very clear. They want this to be a sport. And maybe that means that the flagship show will be, trend a little bit further back away from that, the way All Stars has a little bit. Who knows? But as someone who definitely early on was, I always talk about the show versus sport. Those are kind of the 2 pillars of the challenge. You got the show and you've got the contest, the competition, the sport, if you will, show and sport. I was someone who was in the teens and 20s seasons of the challenge, liked as it became a little bit more of a sport, more physical, more taxing, daunting, more people training a little bit for it. I then came around to agreeing with a large percent of the fan base that thought they eventually went too far with it, and there's not enough of the silliness. There's not kind of enough of what made it special in the first place, and the combination of both, and I'd like them to try to walk that line a little bit better. But this new show, it's sport all the way, a global champion. So if that's not what you like about the challenge, if you're someone who's like, I come for the reality television show part, the drama, and all that stuff. I don't care who wins other than who's in episodes that I have to watch and when I'm going to tune out because my 3 favorite people are gone and all the drama has stopped. This new show is probably not going to be for you. Now, the other thing with this new show, it's going to be fun if you let it be. I kind of referenced that before, but if you let it be, if you want to hate it, you're going to find reasons to hate it. We do that with everything in the world today. But if you want to like it, you can also find every reason to like it, because it is not going to be the flagship show. It is not going to be All Stars. It is going to be on its own merit. It's going to be good. And if you give it a chance, and if you treat it, as I'm going to try my hardest to do, even if they announce tomorrow the flagship MTV show is dead, it is no more, that would be heartbreaking, and I'd be very upset. And part of that anger would be focused at this new thing that seemingly replaced it. But even so, even if that somehow happened, which let's pray it doesn't, I would personally have to go into this thinking, all right, let's judge this on its own merit. It's not that thing over there. It is the challenge, the general structure of it, but it's its own thing. It's going to be a little bit different. There's going to be different faces, all this stuff. Let's grade it on its own scale, treat it as its own thing, because it's going to be really good and it's going to be really fun if you allow yourself to go into it thinking that it can be those things, and not going into it thinking, I just want All Stars. I just want the flagship. I don't want this new stuff. If that's how you feel about it, then don't watch it, probably, is my best advice I can give you. Other thing to note, it is CBS. It is not MTV. So yeah, again, the drama, it's going to be toned down. It's a little different over on CBS as it is on MTV. And along with that, before getting way ahead of it, another shout out to Scott on Challenge Mania for pointing this out, which I think is one of the most key things that needs to be said ahead of time. The ratings are going to be fucking huge for the new version of the show. They are going to dwarf the flagship show. And that is because it's on CBS. And CBS just on average does multi-X times more than what MTV does. And then, they'll add in the actual streaming and I'm sure it's going to be, it will air on actual, if you have real cable still, one of those people out there that have that, it will air live on CBS, but then immediately be on Paramount Plus. And so they'll be able to add the numbers. And so, yeah, the ratings are going to be huge. It doesn't mean anything. It just means that it's on a much bigger platform now and has a much bigger audience. It could possibly reach in that way. Other thing, will it become more Survivor style? I've seen that pop up throughout online a couple times. It seems like everyone on this first season of it is going to be people. If you watch all the CBS reality shows, you'll know them from somewhere. But it feels also, if you're someone that watches Survivor, I've recently gotten back into Survivor after being kind of a super fan in the early days of it and then phasing out a little bit. Survivor, most seasons are brand new people every single time. The whole cast is brand new, and they've, in the last few years, the last dozen seasons or so of it, they've started to do more, bringing people back for certain seasons and different themes and things. But for the most part, almost every season of that show is a brand new slate of people. Could that be what happens to the challenge? Could it be a one and done type thing for a few seasons in a row and then kind of go Survivor style of, every fifth season we'll do some sort of winners season or have like 4 people come back and be captains of new people, things like that. Could be that. I would say that possibly could be more fun than, it'll be great for those people out there that are like, I am a reality competition stan. All of the shows, Big Brother, Survivor, Amazing Race, whatever it is, I watch all of them. You'll know all these new people on this show. Someone like me, I ain't going to know them. If they were on Survivor, I'm going to keep, watch the last 2 seasons of Survivor. I plan on keeping that up, but I ain't tuning into Big Brother anytime soon. I don't got that kind of time. I ain't tuning into The Amazing Race, Love Island, whatever else you got out there. So new people every season, that's definitely a possibility. And again, eventually, the final thing on the CBS show is this is going to be more than 4 markets. This is not just going to stop at UK, Argentina, and Australia. This is going to be everywhere if it works, and I think it's going to work. I bet it's going to resounding success, and same as Survivor and Big Brother, they're going to have a version of this in every country that wants to have a version, wants to put it on their television screens or on their streaming services or on their iPhones or whatever it may be. Final things to discuss, and opinion-wise, is back to the flagship show and kind of All-Stars as well. And that is, with the new casting or the casting knowledge we have right now, I'm not sure how they're going to keep populating the flagship show. As we said, we know they are casting season 38. We're going to get a season 38. My money would be on them for just to be able to say season 40, that they're going to push and to get to a season 40 of what they want to call the quote unquote flagship show moving forward. But if there isn't a lot of MTV shows to go around to keep populating this thing moving forward with any new people. And if you're not going to be bringing any really new people onto the flagship show, then it's just All-Stars anyways. And so then do All-Stars and the flagship show have to merge? And again, does this just lead to, we might get a season 38, but maybe that's it. And after that, we just have All-Stars and Challenge CBS. And, maybe we can bank on, 10 seasons of All-Stars or something before everyone's way too old and there's no more, MTV people to, feeder system to bring in, and then All-Stars is done and we just have whatever's left of, a couple years into this CBS version and War of the Worlds version. Who knows? But it seems like, well, yes, we have confirmation to some degree that we're going to get another season of the flagship show. I don't know what the casting is going to have to look like to keep that going for more than another season or 2 without it just being All-Stars, or if they want to say to all of the cast and crew, hey, All-Stars isn't gone, but we're not doing another All-Stars season for a couple years. So Mark Long or Derek or Kara or Jeanne or anyone that's been on All-Stars recently or wants to go on All-Stars, maybe they kind of force them like, hey, we need y'all back on the flagship for another season. We're going to do 2 seasons of the flagship, and they'll be a little shorter. They'll kind of almost be like All-Stars, but we're not going to call them that. And then we'll do some more All-Star seasons. Maybe they have to mix and match. I don't know, but it does feel like that's going to happen. And it feels like for those that are upset with the last few seasons of the flagship show, that the cast for the next season is going to be more or less kind of what we've got the last season or 2. Because all the older OGs are wanting to just do All-Stars, not the flagship. So I don't know. We will see. Those are opinions. That's a lot of rambling. It's been a lot longer than expected talking about all this different stuff. But I think the main things to recap all of that is this new thing. Again, if it doesn't kill off the flagship, then everything is fine. And we need to treat this new thing like the wonderful thing it is, and that is more challenge. It's a new version, graded on its own scale. Don't compare it to the old thing. It's this new standalone thing. The same way we should grade All-Stars as its own thing, the same way we should keep grading the flagship show as the flagship show. Keep them all, and hopefully we got all 3 of them. And hopefully, as we said way long ago, we're just going to, at some point, starting maybe May 11th, maybe we just never go a week without a new episode of some version of the challenge. That would be truly amazing. But there is a lot of uncertainty. I want to be as positive about this news as possible, and hopefully I was through that long synopsis and thought dump that I just went through these last, 20, 30 minutes. But it was really hard not to see the announcement of something new as the possible elimination of something old that we love. More challenges, always great, and change. New things are something we've all got to get used to in life and be better at accepting and enjoying to the fullest of their potential, not discounting them because they're new or different or, than what we had or loved before. But I really love the flagship show, and I want to see it continue. So here's to hoping that is the case, and we will continue on living in a world with 3 different strains of the challenge, all running simultaneously for years to come. And as we said, TJ, you're about to be a busy man, my friend. As more info comes out about all of the strands of the challenge universe now, we will, of course, keep you updated here on this podcast feed. While we wait for more info, while we wait to see what this new version of the show will look like once it hits our television screens, if you are like me and find yourself nervously excited yet apprehensive, fearing for the continuation of the show we've loved for 2 decades at this point, well then, it sounds like it's the perfect time to relive those older seasons you love so much by rewatching some or all of them right along with me. So on that note, we're done with that news, and we can officially move on. Let the 2022 Challenge Series Rewatch commence. Yes, I just said rewatch. The 2022 Challenge Series Rewatch commence. Thank you all so much for being here today, listening. As always, make sure to follow or subscribe so you don't miss an episode as we walk our way back through all of the seasons of the challenge over the next few months. Find us on Instagram at Challenge Historian, on YouTube by the same name, as well as on Reddit. If you're someone that doesn't use Instagram and you do want to get in touch with me or the podcast, you can do so on Reddit. I'm at Challenge Historian there. You can DM me there, Instagram, wherever. I love you. I appreciate you. And I will talk to you again very soon with our Season 1 Road Rules All-Stars recap coming this Wednesday, 2 days from now. Then again on Friday with Season 2 Real World Road Rules Challenge. Until then, have a great week. Be kind. Do good. Peace.